Tosiaan mä olen Vanda Holopainen Mainostajien liitosta ja tervetuloa kaikille paikalle. Meillä on tänään täällä osa, joka on ei-jäsenistä ja paljon myös jäsenporukkaa. Ja tänään meillä on hieno päivä tulossa, vähän tulevaisuuden näkymiä audiopuolelta, audiomarkkinoinnista. Ja me ollaan iloisia tänään, että me ollaan saatu Boumendil tänne paikalle, itse asiantuntija ulkomailta. Ja kannustan, että puhutte hänelle muutenkin tuossa tauoilla ja muuten, että hän on paikalla tänään jonkun aikaa esityksen sen jälkeen, mutta sen jälkeen me jatketaan jäsenyrityksen konsultointisessioita sitten sen jälkeen. Ja tämä on yksi sellainen etu, mitä me myös tarjotaan meidän jäsenille nykyisin meidän koulutukseen liittyen, että he saavat valita tällaisia henkilökohtaisia konsultointisessioita meidän puhujien kanssa niin tällaisten koulutuspäivien jälkeen ja jo päivää ennen joskus. Esimerkiksi eilenkin käytiin jäsenyrityksissä kiertämässä Michaelin kanssa, jossa jäsenyritykset saa ihan henkilökohtaista konsultointia ja apua heidän haasteidensa kanssa. Mutta mä olisin vielä varmistaa tähän alkuun, että onko meillä ketään englanninkielistä lausin täällä. Ei, okei, mutta en tänään tosiaan Michael puhu englanniksi, sitten meillä on muut esiintyjät esiintyy sitten suomeksi. Mutta eiköhän me ruveta laittaa päivä käyntiin ja päästä Michael puhumaan ja hän aloittaa tänään tosiaan audiobrändäyksestä puhumalla. Ja esittäkää ihan vapaasti kysymyksiä, pystytte ihan esityksenkin keskellä jättävää ylös ja rohkeasti esitätte ne. Ja mä uskon, että jos teillä on joku kysymys, niin varmasti jollakin toisella tästä porukasta on myös se sama ajatus. Mutta eiköhän ruveta laittaa päivä käyntiin ja kiva, kun olette päässeet tänne paikalle. Ja Michael, I think it's your turn to take it over.
I'm sure that what you did was just perfect. I'm sorry that I'm doing this in English. I'm working on my Finnish. But I need first to improve my Spanish and then my French, and so it goes like this. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me here. So we're going to do like 1 hour together talking about what is today the objectives and the way to succeed with sound and music and whatever is audio in the marketing field. So my name is Michael Boumendil. I'm the founder of a company called CCM Sound. It's a company I founded 25 years ago when I was 3. Today CCM Sound is I would say the leading agency for audio branding. We're lucky enough to have been working for about 400 brands around the world. Some of you might know small companies like Coca-Cola and Samsung. Companies, I'm happy to say that, for example, half the clients we have are B2B companies, half are B2C. And there's no limitation in terms of category or kind of activity. But I believe it's logical. If it comes to branding is for whatever company. I believe if I ask you what kind of company needs a visual identity, you would tell me, any company. As from the moment that you are existing and you want people to notice you, to identify you, then you have to have some kind of visual existence. But it seems that we have ears. That's why we need a kind of audio existence. This is what I'm going to talk to you about. It's always interesting to start by asking ourselves, why audio? You know, when I started this business, when I founded this idea of audio branding like a little bit more than 25 years ago, there were 2 approaches to sound. One was, okay, brands need sound because it helps the recall. It helps people remember them. So we need audio to even hear print. It was, I would say, the functional approach to this. And there was another approach. No, brands need music to make things beautiful. We need emotion. This is really the old world. It's just like I'm telling you, why do we dress? We don't dress only for people to remember us. And it's not only to look beautiful. The way we dress is the way we are, and the way we want people to understand us. If it was not the case, we would all be dressed the same way, which today is not exactly the case. So, the first thing I wanted to share with you is this idea that the reason why brands should pay attention to sound is not exactly what it used to be 20 years ago, 30 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. The first thing, if we talk about marketing, is now with all the research, we do a lot of research on Cesium software. The first thing we can prove is if you do the job properly, and this is now we're going to see if the sound is working. If you do the job properly, the first thing that you can expect from sound is really to create the competitive edge. Consciously or not, what you see from a brand, what you hear from a brand is helping you build your idea, your understanding, and sometimes your preference. So for example, when a brand like Renault used to use this, so it's not exactly working, but we're gonna see how we make it work. Maybe you remember this. It was the old sound of Renault. And the feeling by Renault is, okay, it was a sound so people remember us. But what do you mean when you use something like this? I don't know if you remember the old BMW sound, boom, boom. I don't know if you remember that finally there was a moment when almost all the automotive brands had this kind of metallic percussion. And finally, this sound is not talking so much about the brand. It's more talking about, it's about car and metal. Okay, is Renault about car and metal? I'm not sure. When you talk about branding, you talk about the idea of your business. You know, if somebody's selling chairs, it's not about chairs. It is the approach to what they're doing. It's about the ideas. It's more and more about the philosophy of it. And today we all know that the reason why people, particularly the young generation, are choosing a brand, it's not only because of the product, it's how you build a product, with what kind of things in mind. So for example, when then we change it all, and Renault reposition the brand, and we create something like this. Maybe you remember this. I'm sure at home it's not that loud, so I'm going to lean down a little bit. And we were interested to know what it was changing. But we don't care about music. We don't care about sound. We're not interested in knowing if people like it or not. I'm sure you don't care about me liking or not your shoes, or your glasses, or my glasses. The idea is to what extent it is influencing your understanding of who I am, my understanding of who you are. So we started to do some analysis, and particularly we asked a research institute to do a competitive analysis. And some years ago, in terms of sound, when somebody was hearing sounds and we were asking them to position sound compared to the competitors, Renault was among the four automotive manufacturers. And now the research done by Ipsos shows that on absolutely all the elements, Renault is number one by far. There's one question that I really like, is one that Ipsos is asking, do you think this brand should keep its sound? That's interesting, because to a certain extent it helps understand people are not the professional of marketing. So they don't answer saying, okay, I believe it's true to do the positioning. No. It is to what extent I am attached to this. To what extent it is creating a link between the brand and myself. And it's very interesting to see that on this thing, most people should say, I don't care if they change it or not. You know, frankly, that's just a jingle, not just a sound. The average quotation for this is 5. That's a lot. No, they should not change that.
In which market?
So this is European because, oh, okay, so I would say it's an international one, but it's not a global one. because a lot of brands here are not in every country. For example, this one and this one are not in America. There are still countries where you don't have Hyundai, so it's European one. The other topic about sound is a topic that I believe is absolutely key to everybody. It's the attention. We are marketing people. We all know that it's maybe one of the two biggest challenges we are facing now. How do we get people attention? I'm really surprised. I hope it's gonna last. But for the moment, few people are having their phones on their hand and only checking their mails. If you do, it's not a problem for me. But it means that today we know that people looking at TV, for example, when they're looking at TV, they might be also doing something else. So, for example, in the US where I live in New York, 48% of the people watching TV are not watching TV. They're doing something else. In Europe, according to the countries, it's now almost the same thing. Which means that if you are a brand and you're buying a TVC, you know that half people are not watching. But there's something that they're doing, whatever they want. They are hearing. Because most of the time when you're checking your emails, you don't do like this. So the question is, to what extent does sound can help me bring people's attention back to my brand? I think that's a very interesting thing. But for example, when you have, this is a YouTube watch time statistic. We all know that the longest is video, the smallest is the audience. And today, the average thing is when you have video, you will lose approximately 50% of the people after 6 to 7 seconds. This is the usual thing. But all this research we did, it's a video campaign. The client came to us saying they have a lot of efforts and they were kind of disappointed by the audience. So their audience is in blue. And we thought that the approach to sound was not helping. Why? You know, a lot of producers of TVC are thinking about sound as a nice way to put emotion to their picture. They forget that half person will only hear that. And they forget that sometimes the music tells the story better or worse than the picture. So we thought that in this video, the music was already repetitive after 5 seconds. When something is repeating itself, what's the point in staying focused on it? So we have started to introduce what I call audio accident. Something that was not repeating. And for example, something that was interesting is here we put a silence. You know, if you're in a place or in a world where there used to be sound and music and noise, and suddenly you have silence, you might wonder what's going on. So you will pay attention to something else. And when it's a TVC, you pay attention back to the screen. Well, of course, we cannot prevent people from leaving. That's the way it ends. But the peeing thing is the version we did. And this is approximately 40% of the audience. So it means that changing the audio approach to the video was bringing back 40% of the audience having attention to the video. I don't mean it's a huge, I don't mean it's a little thing. I mean that when you pay $2 million in a digital campaign and then you have 40 people more or more attention by 40%, that's meaningful. And the only difference, of course, was sound. So we talked about competitive edge, we talked about attention. I could talk about engagement and confidence. And for me, that's the other challenge. It was a very European thing, but I have to say that it's a global thing. Defiance for brands. I think that it's been years that brands are pushing their message. And it's logical to a certain extent that we arrive to a moment that people say, I'm done with it. The more you push, the more I will push back. And particularly the young generation. if you say something and if you push it, you're not sharing it. So they will defend themselves. And today, it's true. And when some brands are talking, they're talking a little bit, and this little bit is enough for people to say, no, that's bullshit. You already lied to me, or you are already intrusive in my life, or you are already too aggressive. I don't want you anymore. There was a guy that I really liked working with. It was a branding consultant, and the guy is almost a philosopher, a sociologist guy. And it was more than 10 years ago he told me this. He had a theory about the paranoid society. And to make it short, he says, if you tell me that you're beautiful, it is because you're not. If I tell you that I'm a nice guy, it is because I'm not. If I'm nice, I don't need to say this. People will feel it. And my behavior, what I'm really doing, will prove it. So if you push, people will push back. And sometimes more. And the conclusion of this work he did, that this guy, for example, was a former advisor to French President Nicolas Sarkozy. He says it's going to be about the right emotion and the non-literal vocabulary. Music is maybe the most powerful non-literal vocabulary. I can say things with music, but you cannot push back. If I play, you cannot give me the opposite. But if I tell you I'm a beautiful guy, you can tell me you're not. So that's very interesting, because finally it's then again not about pushing something that is selling me. It's more sharing a state of mind. It's more sharing an idea. It can be a very precise idea. But this idea, according to how you push it, how you share it, will trigger an interest or will trigger a pushback. This is what I believe is at stake when you think about audio branding. And this is becoming key because more and more touch point in a world that is becoming a screenless world. There are a lot of things that I will be happy to share with you, but some I cannot for confidentiality reason. But for example, it's not a surprise to you that the automotive brand we're working with believe that in not so far away, you will be driving your car without your hands on the wheel. You might interact with the car, the voice, and the car will answer you. I know that Alexa is not here yet, maybe because Alexa is just like me, a little bit struggling with Finnish. But it will come soon. And the business and the audio business, a lot of people are telling me why this amazing figure, you know. A lot of research are saying that next year in the US, the audio business, it means the business triggered by vocal assistant, will be $40 billion. Why? It is very easy. I can have whatever I want without going to a computer. You know, if I need to have a screen, I need to take it. I need to go to my computer, I need to have my phone. But if I can go in the morning and do my coffee and drink and do whatever I want, and in the meantime say, Alexa, there's no more coffee, can you buy coffee? And it's done. You have to watch your kids that they don't order a big Maserati on the phone while you're doing your coffee. But that's a reality, and this reality is about freedom. If I don't need to go to a screen, then I can do plenty of things. This is what we're going to talk about, and I hope this long introduction makes it clear for all of you that what we're talking may be disappointing. It's not about music. We can hear music. Looking for the light, disco light, maybe next time. But it's going to be mostly about marketing, about branding, and the way music can help or not, according to what you do, build a stronger relationship with the people we are trying to talk to. So if we're talking about branding, we should remember what is branding. Branding is the idea that I know who I am and I know how to embody this. But the way I am managing branding depends very much on how I am handling this relationship. There was a time, maybe you are aware, B2B companies had TV and radio, radio and TV. And today we all know that does not exist anymore. This year in the US is going to be more investment in digital marketing than in offline marketing. That's the first year. It means that we can prove today that the way people are making their opinion about brands is a little bit of this and this and this and this. And for example, when you talk about audio, you can have your audio DNA, your audio logo, the core of the system here, but it cannot be the same thing during the meeting that you would have on an online customer, on a customer line. It cannot be the same thing, for example, when your phone is ringing and when you are listening to the radio, or it cannot be the same thing when you have a notification on your phone because you have an app. It's not the same thing because it's not the same experience. And imagine it became the same thing. It would be so boring. If a brand is boring, there's absolutely no point in sticking to that brand. So the question is, if we're talking about audio branding, the first step is, of course, to define this, and then to define the system that goes with it. Okay, what is my brand objective when people are calling me? But what is my customer's expectation when they are calling me? And you have to see to it that in every touch point, the two objectives are able to meet. Very usual what I'm saying, very ordinary, because if I go back to what is a graphic guideline, that's it. The visual identity cannot be the same if you need to put it in big in a store or on a business card. It cannot be the same thing if you have your logo on my shoes and in the website. What is interesting now is that sun is just everywhere. So it gives you the possibility to show a very large spectrum of things. The question is, how do you manage that? But if you talk about audio branding, it's not about having a jingle and put it everywhere the same thing. It's not working. Because there are moments where you might need 3 hours of music if you have people coming to your booth. Or you might need only 1.5 seconds if you have to work on a notification of something important you're telling to your clients. It cannot be the same content because it cannot be the same circumstances, the same experience. So then again, this audio branding approach is about helping the brand be stronger, standing out, be clearer. Clarity is so important. And helping people have a better experience, a richer experience, a more engaging experience. I have to say that when I founded this company, and when SCMson was the first audio branding company in the world, I was wondering, how would I call this? Will it be musical identity? Will it be musical branding? Will it be sound branding? Will it be noise branding? I decided to call it audio branding because I believe it's about everything that you can hear. So it can be music, yeah. It can be sound. But for example, if I say something like this.
Very happy to talk about sound with you. And there is a key topic that goes with it. Now I want to talk about voices. So exciting.
So exciting. She sounds so excited. A lot of brands are coming to us saying, okay, I need to have my voice. And they're right. You know, each of us, we all have our unique voice. And even though I'm speaking to you in French, in English, you can hear my French accent. And even when I speak other languages, and it's still my same voice. I can have differences in terms of tones, but it's still me. And we know that brands are going to need that. It's already the case. But everything has to work together. music, sound, voice. And this has to come in a world where you already have your colors, your shapes, maybe your type, your name. If you don't have this working together, what you create is confusion. If all this is coming together, you are starting to create an amazing asset. So I wanted to take an example, and I decided to take the Renault example. Why? Because it's a very... Maybe I will draw them, and they will remember me. It's a very interesting example, but because it's a very complete one. And it's done by people that are in a business where they understand that how branding is key. So it's Renault. Renault, Nissan is, with Toyota, I believe, the #1 car manufacturer in the world. And I'm going to talk about something that is, for me, absolutely key, is the Renault Brown group architecture. So here you have a group, and here you can have sub-brands or sub-activities. So you can have the Renault, I would say, usual cars that we all know. You will have Renault Pro, which can be trucks and vans and things like this. You have something that you might watch on TV some Sundays, which is the Renault Sport and Formula One. You can have Renault, oops, that's an E, for electric cars. This is all Renault. How do you see to it? They all sound Renault, but to a certain extent they all sound like they're different because they have something different. That's why the broad architecture, the group is not talking to the same people and saying the same thing that the Renault Sport is doing. So I wanted to share this example because I believe, okay, it's a big thing, but I have to say that we're doing exactly the same thing now for a very, very small company, a company of 45%, but in a very niche business, and it's a very competitive one, and they have to be, whatever, excellent. So, let's go into this. When Renault came to us, they came with something that I believe was a game changer. Every brand, during so many years, they were talking about cars, and as I told you, they realized that it was not about cars. It was about people's experience of their cars. And it's nice when people are telling you this, but most of the time they don't do this. Guys from Renault, they did it. And we saw that when they came with this tagline. Why? Because they told us they would not talk about cars. And the tagline is not about car. We say, oh, they're taking that seriously. Passion for life, okay, you understand what it will mean when it comes to cars. Passion for life is an idea, I would say, rather disruptive about the way Renault would approach its business. Passion for life is not at all in line with the sound we heard the first one, you know, the metallic one. Passion for life meant something else. So we have created, you know, just to remind you the old one. Oh, we lost the beginning, I don't know why. And the new one. When in doing some research, it's very surprising what people would think about this brand, and then again, I don't talk about music, this brand and this brand. But beyond this, defining an audio identity, you know, it's not about having a 3-second music. It's just like a visual identity is not a small drawing. It's a principle. And when it comes to defining a visual identity, you might need a visual identity with a logo, but you need some maybe complementary colors. You need a much richer vocabulary because you know you're going to have to deal with a much richer range of touch points. So for example, from this audio logo, we create this music to help us define the vocabulary, the global vocabulary of Renault. decided to almost write a song. We had an idea in mind. The idea was that if you go on a YouTube page for any car manufacturer and they're doing a video, you will see that half, when it's done properly, half of the command will be about the music. And we know that sometimes we have the idea of offering this content to people. So we say, we will use the framework of a song to define the vocabulary. What is the vocabulary in terms of sound? You will often talk about melody. Should be clear for everybody what is melody. Harmony, which is just the segments of chords. The texture, what kind of, I would compare that to the color, the structure of the sound, and the tempo. And these helps define the vocabulary of a brand. And I could really talk about the same thing, saying the visual identity might be a name, a font, a symbol that will have colors and shapes. It helps define a territory. I'm sure that your brands might have a specific color, maybe some complementary color, but it means that you make choices. There are colors that you are not using, and there are colors that you really pay particular attention to. What are we going to do this? You know, if I go back to my idea of the DNA at the center and dealing with the touch points, once you believe you've done the job properly, and for example here at Renault, compared to their competitors, we have a 100% acoustic sound. We don't want technology. We believe with Renault that technology is not the objective. It can be a means to having an experience, but when you talk about passion for life, you don't talk about exciting innovation. You're talking about passion, and you're talking about life. Passion is something maybe more masculine with a lot of strength, and you're talking about something more feminine, reality, not technology, something warm that's called life. So let's go into the system and see how it worked. For example, the first adaptation was a corporate movie to present to the employees the new positioning. And you will see it's almost the same music, but not exactly.
Dance out of time.
Say it's 70% the same music that we used, that we heard previously, and 30% different. Why different? Because it's a different touch point, it's a different objective. We have more enthusiasm. We want to share this with the people within the company, and we have a story to tell and to follow this little movie. And let's see another example. You can have a TVC. Okay, TVC is something else. Not to mention that here, when you're talking about Renault, you will have plenty of models that will all have their own territory. So how do you see to it that you respect the territory of the model, but you make it clear that it's a Renault one? And I like this example of an Alaskan product. Alaskan is a pickup that previously was dedicated to the South American market. I'll let you hear and you will see how we infuse the idea that it's a pickup, but it's a pickup by Renault. Stop here. So we have a very pickup music, and then we are infusing our very specific texture of voice by Renault. Could be enough. in this guideline, we have defined that it has to be 3 times. So I'm going to go back to the video if you want to, just to show you how it worked. But maybe that's already like your visual guidelines. Saying, okay, if I have a picture like this, my color should be here and my visual identity should be there. And that's the way you are endorsing things. Endorsing things mean that you give yourself a leeway to do different things, but you see to it that you take this content back to your brand to make it clear, not repetitive, but coherent, whatever the touch point. You know, I could even stop there. I could show you so many things, but that's the same principle. The question is, for example, Renault Pro. Okay, what do we sound like when we're talking about here? What is Renault Pro? I would say that trucks and vans are more masculine and maybe heavier. So let's make it more masculine and heavier. No more feminine voices, and here it's uncovering serious things. Oh, what about a Formula One? The same thing, but not the same thing. Of course, the key question is not about music and sound. The question is, what am I infusing here? To what extent Renault Sport is different from Renault Pro? What do they have in common? What do they have not in common? To what extent I see to it that I'm still having this consistent system, this coherent system, but this system with flexibility. Too much flexibility, you become schizophrenic. Not enough flexibility, you become repetitive. You should be somewhere in the middle. Time is running fast, so I'm not going to let you hear absolutely everything. Corporate application, how does it sound when people are calling Renault? What happens when people within the company have ringtones? Ringtones, that's very simple, very cheap to deploy, but very meaningful for people if you offer them ringtones. So many applications at Renault. What is the Renault notification? You have an app that helps you, for example, configure your car, or see that I have plenty of information. You have a notification. How do we sound like? I'm sure you get it. I don't have to go much further. I just want to show you this, is the difference between the previous sound and the new sound. I would say that's kind of significant things. And I like this idea of the boss of the brand about the fact that it's built to last. It's a competitive age. And beyond that, it's now part of the culture of the brand. So I will stop here for the Renault idea. And as a conclusion, I would like to say some very simple things. Approaching audio branding is like approaching branding. So it should be a method like this. Try first to know what you do, where you need sound, and what your competitors are doing. You have to make a difference. Then start to see and feel what kind of vocabulary. Doing audio branding is like cooking, I say to my clients, but we're cooking together. You might have some habits that I don't know, share it with me. I can have some intuition, some conviction, I'm sharing with you. And together we'll share the vocabulary, the ingredients we're going to cook with. Then we'll go and have some cooking, trying to see what kind of defining the core of the vocabulary, and then finalizing it. Then we'll go into the real life. Doing the adaptation for the different touch point, we do the creative development for phone, for whatever, TVC, radio. You're organizing the supports and the guidelines. What I'm allowed to do. Somebody that might not be a branding person in the company say, hey, I'm doing an event. What is the sound to open my event? Okay, look into the guideline. You have what you want. And do regular research and research support, meaning what? After 3 years, see what is clear in your system. See how you are understood by people with sound. Maybe you will say, okay, my research after 3 years shows this battle we won it, but not this one. So now we're gonna focus on this one. Brand and branding is a living world. It's moving, your competitors are moving. So see to it that you stick to your objectives and to your audience. It's good to have some kind of perspective, and research can help you on this. Very logical when I'm telling you this. So just to finish with some rules. Everything about music. Don't go and see a musician. It's not about music. You're not here to make things that please you. And a good audio branding person should tell you things that you don't want to hear. No musical briefing. You don't say, okay, we like this music. No, it's just like you go to an architect and you say, okay, I'm going to tell you exactly what I want my building to be. If you have an architect, you tell the architect what you want to do with the building, how you live. You're not designing the plan, otherwise you don't take an architect. The second thing, think about you, yes, your clarity, your positioning, but think also about people's experience. Don't forget that when somebody is calling you, it's your proposal and this person's experience. It has to meet both experience. Yeah, something very strange, but that's the reality. A lot of brands are coming to us saying, okay, this is what we have been created, this is what we used to do, this is the past. This is very important because the DNA is about the past. But when you create an identity tool, it is to project yourself in the future. So be clear about where you want to be, where your brand should be. Because you are creating now the identity that, if it's done properly, will work and live with you during the next 20 years. So have an idea of where you want to be. Rule number 4, as from the moment that you have an identity, it's not an option. So many people say, okay, yeah, but this I have a touch point, an unusual one, so I'm going to do my thing. I don't need your thing. And then the exception becomes the rule, and then you're dead. It's not an option. And last thing, because I'm hearing that too much, when it comes to defining the identity, be brave, be bold. That's the safest thing you can do. If you're doing a music that the first time you hear it, you like it, throw it away. Because if the first time you hear it, it's easy to digest, very, very soon it becomes so easy that it's not noticeable, that you won't exist. Renault is weird at the beginning. I remember the first presentation because they did, what's going on there? But this weird thing becomes after some weeks or some months, it's not weird anymore. It's different, it's unusual. It has the personality that stands out. It is the kind of sound that when you hear it, you pay attention to. Forget about the music that you like and that you believe is going to please people. So, very quick conclusion. We're here because we know that brand is business. We believe that the right brand, and we can prove it, is helping business. So my message to you is, I believe the right audio branding really amplifies the success for branding, and it's now. You asked me to keep 15 minutes.
Thank you, Michael. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
First of all, thank you very much. Very impressive the work you've done with Renault. Now, Renault is a business with huge financial resources, also in terms of audio. How would you scale this down to a smaller business? Because that's what we mainly have in Finland.
I took this example not because of how big it was, because as I told you, I think the biggest client of Citizen must have been maybe Coca-Cola or Samsung, and the smallest one is a 5-person company. So I'm going to take an example of a small company we're working with now. First, they have plenty of touch points on whole message, usual. they have now their YouTube page and a lot of things in social media. So for example, the question is, they are not posting every day 2 videos. We had a client last year that produced for his YouTube page 90,000 videos. I don't know how they can do this, but that's the way it is. But this company, I would say, every month is doing something. So from a financial point of view, why it is cheaper for them compared to Renault? Because, for example, when you have a meeting, when you have an audit for Renault, as I told you, we're starting with the audit can take 2 months for 10 people. In that case, it was 2 days for one person. The second thing is, when we're working with a small company, we don't have like 10 committees with 10 people. It's very, very direct with the chief marketing officer and most of the time the CEO of the company. So as we charge the time, when we will charge something like for a big company, for example, if I don't tell you, I would say that what we're doing now for this small company is about 35. And what they get into this is the DNA, the audio logo, the application for phone messages, and what we call intro, outros, and transition for the videos. So that's the beginning of the system, plus the ringtone. The ringtone is so easy to do and so impactful. So this is logical. I mean, and this is a competitive edge for a small company. So it's the problem of the scale. I would say the real one is when you have big organizations. For example, we are in charge of Michelin worldwide, all countries, all touch points, all products. That's a lot of time seeing to it that things are doing well. We're kind of guardian angel to this. But really, small companies, and even very small companies are coming to us because they understand that it's even more effective to work on sound than on some other topics. The sentence that you might hear many times from me is, we can prove today that if you own the ears, you'll own the mind. Was I clear to you?
Yes, you were. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions or ideas, thoughts about Boumendil's presentation?
Any
And
more
everyone-
coffee?
Yeah, everyone has an idea how to get started with their audio branding now, right?
But if no one else has a question, I can go on.
With pleasure.
Most companies have an advertising agency. We see it now that, especially thanks to you, many companies do have an audio branding agency. Should every company have an audio branding agency to be consulting with everything they do?
I believe, from what I see, I can say that I'm traveling a lot. We are in a moment where marketing is transforming a lot. My feeling is that tomorrow, your job, and I'm going to use something that we had a very nice meeting with the boss of the American Express brand, and he told me this, which really I love. You see, we're not going to be CMO anymore. We're going to be Chief Collaboration Officer. And why he said this? He said, maybe 10 years ago we had one agency that said, I can do it all. And now it's impossible, because you have too many touch points, too many content to produce. Now you need to have plenty of super expert agencies, and the job of a CMO or a marketing guy is going to be to have them collaborating. And he said this can be collaboration or coordination. So I go straight to the answer. For example, I believe that an advertising agency should do advertising. And for example, should not do the branding. Go to a branding agency. It's not the same objective. Branding is a long-term thing. It's not about tactics, it's not about a campaign. Audio branding is another thing. if you have all things together, you know out of hands. The biggest one, situate that the small things that have been done is not a problem for him. So I believe that you're gonna have to have your branding agency, working with your branding agency, working with your event agency, working with your advertising agency, working with your digital content agency or your brand content agency. That's the way it is if you want to be more effective, and also if you want this to be not so expensive. So I have no doubt about that. And you know, I see even very big companies slowly but surely saying, okay, no, it's not going to be one big company doing a lot of things. I believe that what you see going on now, for example, at WPP, is exactly this. They are in a kind of, would you call it a big crisis, or would you call it a big transformation? That's the same then with so many big agencies. They realize that they're going to have to learn something that they do not know, is collaborate with others. And not say, it's my client. No, it's not your client. It's the client of this agency, this agency, this agency. This is the new world. And I think it's for the best from a marketing point of view.
All right. Any more questions? I think we have time for a last one.
Your last one?
I'm good, thanks.
What is the lifespan of the material that we have?
So I've tried to answer this question, but I'm going to answer it differently. You know what I told you, that research is something interesting to see where you are after 3 years and 3 years. And I say, maybe it will help you refresh things. What is the time of a visual identity? The time of a visual identity is the brand. It means that, for example, every brand might go sometimes into some questioning, saying, okay, do I need to do a repositioning? Do I need to evolve on my positioning? Am I clear on this positioning? And then from time to time say, okay, I need to do a kind of evolution. If the brand is doing this evolution, then the branding tool should do a kind of evolution. So, for example, Michelin has done 2 years ago a slight evolution in terms of positioning. The visual identity slightly evolved, and we evolve slightly. But for example, we are celebrating this year our 10th anniversary with working with Michelin. Of course, if it's not an evolution, if it's a revolution, you might decide to do a strong thing, not to mention changing thing. But don't get it wrong. It's not about music. It's not about, oh, people are fed up with this, I don't care. Maybe you will be fed up before then because you live in the system. You say, I can't just keep, you don't care. And I don't care, and nobody cares. The longest, the better. You know, it's just like you tell me, well, people from Coca-Cola, they must be fed up with this visual identity. Yes and no. Because they might be fed up, but they see and they know how strong is this asset. And if you notice, every 2 or 3 years, Coca-Cola is changing a small thing in their visual identity. So it's just like you. Your name. When did you change it recently? No, that's exactly what I mean. As from the moment that it's identity, you stick to it. And if you're changing things, or if you're doing an evolution, so logically, you will do an evolution in your branding territory or tools.
What drives that? Is it research or gut feeling or?
No, when you, for example, why Michelin changed? Michelin changed because first they understood that they used to talk a lot about tires, which used to be 90% of their business, and it's not only tires now, it's more than this. They realized that they might have been very technical in their communication, and they realized that their relationship with customer needed a more empathic approach. So they did research on this, and people say Michelin is a very reliable brand, a very innovative brand, but not sure that it's a brand that is listening so much to the customers. So they say we have to show that we are listening, because we are. So for example, the way the Michelin Man who's appearing is very different, and the position is different, is much warmer, able to greet people maybe in a way he was not doing before. So now you can have an intuition if you talk about guts, but you can have this intuition. But when you talk about branding, you're talking about the foundation of your business. So you can have an intuition, do some research to see if your intuition is right, and then draw the consequences of this information to get better. But we're not in a business where it's only about intuition. The only thing that I believe is very interesting is taking risks. If you don't take risk, don't forget everybody's talking about data-driven branding. Yes, but don't forget that everybody has the same data. Everybody. Renault has the same data as Peugeot or as Toyota. Okay, what do you do with this? If you take a risk, and you can pick. If you take no risk, you will do just like everybody. And so you will not stand out. Was my answer clear?
Yeah, I think there would be several hours to discuss.
So if you want, I'm tomorrow in Paris, I have 1 hour delay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is it okay for us to share your presentation with the participants?
I think yes, I just have to make it maybe a live version because I told you that it was very heavy with the video, so maybe I will condense it a little bit.
Perfect. So we will share Michael's presentation. I think, is it okay with you, Stefan, Tommy, to share your presentations as well on our Clanet platform? And did everyone get their Clanet user IDs and everything set? Are you able to register for the audio platform? Okay, you can contact me if you have any problems with that. For now, thank you, Michael, again. And now we have Stefan from Radio Media stepping in, and he's going to talk about more of the audio marketing from the perspective of radio channels.